Okay, again, welcome to the session, and we are going to discuss a couple of things tonight. Well, basically to welcome people and also to discuss the assessment overview. And if we have a bit of time, we are going to discuss the a few slides. Okay, I'm going to discuss the slide later on. Okay. Right. Okay. So this is the assessments. I do recommend you to download it. Okay. Do you guys have you guys downloaded the assessment brief so far? Right. Okay. Okay. Anything that you are confused with the assessment?
If I can step in here, I don't know whether the first assessment is individual or group. It says individual, but if you read it, it suggests group.
Yes, exactly. So the first assessment is actually an individual assessment. I can see your point. Okay, I'm going to. The first assessment is an individual one. The second one is going to be the group assessments. Okay, and the other thing is that let me just remove this. Okay. The other thing is that in terms of group assessments, we will be. I'm going to get the computer on random basis to form a group of 5 people, basically, for the second assessment. Okay. Now let's have a look at the first one. The first assessment is an individual assessment. Okay. It is worth 40 marks, basically. So 40% of the total marks. And the purpose of the first assessment is to discuss the selection of a certain international market. Okay, and therefore I would recommend you to nominate 2 markets, but before we do that, I would recommend you to select an organization that operates in Australia. Okay, you could select any organization. It doesn't have to be an Australian business. It could be a multinational company, but this company does not have to be based in Australia, but you can assume the office in Australia is the regional headquarter. Okay. Before I continue with that, can I please ask, is there anybody based in not in Australia? Okay. If you're not based in Australia, please do let me know. Then so we can discuss possible adjustment for you. Okay, in terms of the headquarter of the company. Okay, but let's assume it is we manage this business from the regional head office in Australia, and you need to look at you need to nominate 2 markets. Where this business has not been launched, and after that we are going to analyze which one out of these 2 market that you are going to select based on the tools, based on the analysis, based on the parameters to nominate the one that you are going to penetrate. Okay. Now this is basically the part 1. So critically evaluate the key modern economic theories and key events in the recent global economic history. So some economic forces, if you like, what the economic forces out there that impact your industry. Okay, and then strengths and weaknesses of the proposed business model and consider strategies for improvement, and examine the business model, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if you look at further in terms of the rubric, okay, so looking at here we are looking at the global perspectives in the strategic proposal, and the next one is the identification or analysis of the strategic issues, and after that we look at the ethical and social consideration for the strategic issues, and development and vision setting. And the next one is basically about the evaluation of strategic position and strategic options. And after that, we discuss about the evaluation of information selected to support the case study. Okay, so guys, my recommendation is if this is our assessments, okay, so my recommendation for you is to discuss about the introduction, okay, briefly introduce the organization, okay, the organization, okay, here you explain about the organization. When you explain the organization, let me just remove the brackets in here. When you introduce the organization, make sure that you discuss about, you can discuss about the historical background of the organization briefly, and you discuss about the, what you call, the product range, product service of this organization, okay? And you can also discuss about the flagship of these, or the major products of this organization. Okay, the major product or service of this organization. Okay, and if you ask me what between product and service, which one that I would recommend, look, I may be biased on this one. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you select a product or a service, but I grew up in the product manufacturing environment. Therefore, maybe a little biased here in terms of you know, my own preference. Okay, I personally prefer a product rather than a service, but it doesn't mean a service. You know, you can also select a service. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so you launch the service, this organization in overseas. Okay, right. So that's the introduction part. Okay, and then you discuss about the two markets. Okay. Here you introduce the two markets. Right. You briefly introduce about the two markets. Okay, the background of these two markets. Okay, when you select these two markets, okay, make sure that your organization has not competes in this organization, has not operated in these markets. Okay. They may do some export business to this market, which is fine, but not necessarily having the business operation in there. Okay, so sometimes, you know, organizations may just ship the products to, you know, across the border. This is one of the things that I'd like to discuss. Hopefully, if we do not have the time tonight, we'll have the time tomorrow to discuss about some key terms. Okay, like exports and also international business and international marketing, things like that we are going to discuss. Yeah, so yeah, they may have done some export. Okay, get the some importers, local traders doing the import for their products. Okay, and the importer is basically, you know, spread the products already in there, but that definitely may change. That definitely changes your perspective in terms of how you penetrate the market. Okay, because again, in terms of export, we, you know, sometimes it is one of the first one of the stepping stones of the organization before they do they are committed to conduct the international business operation. Okay, right, so two markets. Okay, then the next thing that you need to do is the selection. Okay, so the outcome of that is basically selection. Okay, based on what? Based on the environmental forces. Okay, based on the environmental forces. Okay, so we are going to conduct the selection. Why we select this market? Okay, so it is basically about the internet, about the selection based on the environmental forces. Okay, so your assessment, our assessment is basically more about the analysis of the environmental forces. We analyze that. Okay, we find the facts. Okay, for these two markets. Okay, and then we are going to rate them. Okay, we are going to use a kind of rating scale. In my presentation, you'll find that we are going to use certain rating scale based on the analysis. Yes, we are going to write these guys that much and these guys this much. Therefore, we are going to nominate this market. If we select, let's say, market A and market B offers a higher rating scale, for instance. That's the one that we are going to recommend. Okay. So that's basically assessment 1 in a nutshell. Okay. Now going forward, let me just before I move further, any questions about? Do you guys have any question about assessment 1?
Rating scale. Do we create the rating scale, or is that something that's supplied to us?
Right. Well, that's actually a good question that you raise. I'm going to provide you guys with the brief templates on that one. Okay. And that I'm going to cover that in the presentation, probably not tomorrow's presentation, but I'm hoping that we are going to cover the rating scale itself. Basically contains the forces, the environmental forces, basically. Okay, the major environmental forces, okay, the macro environmental forces, the micro environmental forces. We are going to write them, okay, because each of them will bring risks in terms of opportunities, in terms of how we are going to be successful in this operation. Okay, have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, brilliant. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's basically assessment 1. Okay, so to answer to your question, I'm going to discuss with you. Okay, look, I'm not going to be rushing. Okay, but yes, there will be templates that I'm going to present as well. Probably not tomorrow. Hopefully, sometime next week. Okay, so you can start working on it. But next week, after next week's presentations, I believe you'll be able to have more. A better ideas in terms of the tools or concepts that you need to use for your analysis. Okay, so my recommendation for you is from now until next week, can you please think about the organization? Okay, do some research about the two markets that you would nominate. Okay, because you are going to make a strategic decision. Okay, look. In international business strategies, right? Some companies do the selection based on, from heaven. Okay, yes, this is the one. Okay, let's go there. Okay, and look, we need to provide some sort of justification. Okay, some justification why this market that we want to penetrate, why not that market, or yep, both markets are good for us. Both markets are strategic for us. However, market A would be the one that we need to prioritize this year. Market B would be in the next couple of years. Okay, so we develop that kind of strategy. Okay, so we need to come up with that kind of entry strategies. Okay, now. In terms of entry strategies, In terms of entry strategies, I mentioned to you guys that we have the second assessment. Okay, and hang on a second. We have the second assessment. Okay. And the second assessment basically, focusing on the entry strategy. Okay, so the first assessment is about making a decision on the market that we want to select, the market that we want to penetrate. That is the outcome of the first assessment. Okay. So if we go back to the previous one here, the previous discussion drafts that I type in here, okay, the outcome of your assessment is market. Okay, recommendation on the market we will penetrate. Okay, so that is the major outcome that we need to bring to from the assessment 1. Okay. Now assessment 2 is basically the follow-up of that decision. Okay, the follow-up of that decision. All right. Now this is the thing. Assessment 2 is a group assessment. I think someone asked me. Was it you, Craig, asking me that is the first assessment an individual or group? Okay, the first one is an individual. The second one is a group assessment. Okay, I'm hoping that in week 2 you will be able to find out who your group members are. Okay, so I'm going to get the our learning portal computerized. Randomly, we are going to assign you to certain group. Okay, so the second assessment as group assessments, well, it contributes 60 marks. So we do need to get a good handle of this one because this contributes a high mark. Okay. So the second one is actually the entry strategy that we are going to develop. Okay, as an entry strategy, we need to include all aspects of the business. Okay, the HR aspect, the marketing aspect, okay, and so on and so forth. That will come into the strategy. Okay, think about a business plan. Okay, a business plan actually a formal business document that contains all aspects of the business, all plans of the business, right? Each the business functions such as marketing, sales, finance, and HR, and so on and so forth, will develop their own planning, okay? And if we combine the plans of those business functions, we'll be able to come up with the business plan, okay? So, in a nutshell, if you ask me the question, what is the outcome of the of assessment 2? A business plan for the selected market. Okay, for the selected market. All right. Now this is the thing. Okay, this is the thing. Assessment 1 is an individual assessment. Assessment 2 is a group assessment. Okay, so you may select different organizations for assessment 1 for individual assessments. You may select different markets for individual assessments. You decide which one that you want to pursue. Okay, there should be there are 5 people. You may select for argument's sake, there may be 5 organizations that have been selected for assessment 1 with 10 markets that come down to 5 markets, right? You decide which one that you want to nominate. I'll leave it to you to make to make that conversation with your group members. Okay, let's do this one. Okay, we go that way. Okay, and you battle on that one. Okay, you select, allocate the tasks, who will do what, and so on and so forth. Okay, and this is a bit of rubric, global perspective in the strategic proposal. So similar to the first one. Okay, identification, analysis of the strategic issues. Okay, ethical considerations, strategic development, evaluation of strategic position and strategic options. All right, now we are going to and the next one is the evaluation of information selected to support the case study. Remember, we need to have the information substantiated. Okay. The other thing that I would like to highlight in terms of assessment 2 is, yes, it is a group assessment. Okay. Don't split the task based on the element of a business plan. Okay, let's say you get someone to develop. Hey, why don't you develop the marketing strategy, and you guys will develop the HR strategy. I personally do not recommend you to do that. Okay, I would personally recommend you to look at the together revisit the environmental strategy. Okay, that one of you has developed. And get the insights together. Okay, this is the insights. How do we get from here, right? Then you develop the objectives together. Okay, then you create the ideas in terms of direction from marketing perspective, from HR perspective. Okay, then you write that together. Okay, now when it comes to writing it, I'm just giving you a heads up, a bit of challenges in terms of group work. Okay, you can communicate through the portal, basically, or any other methods. I will leave it to you. I'm not going to get involved in how you communicate, how you handle it. Okay, if you have issues, then please send me an email. Hey, well, it's my preference is for you to solve the issues yourself, because you are the managers of the group. Okay, but if needed, then we can have a kind of consultation. Okay, now in terms of writing it, I would also recommend you to have someone, you nominate someone in your group to edit it and proofread it. Okay. So let's say if I write certain section after we discuss the insights, okay, yep, this is the insight for our marketing strategy, this is the direction for our marketing strategy, and I nominate myself to write it, and someone, you know, is nominated to write the HR strategy, for instance, after gaining the common insights. Okay, then we swap the papers, we look at, you know, we give feedback, we do the proofreading. Okay, we do the editing after that. Okay, so with that, I think it is a better position for you to get a you know, a better quality of report. Okay, because we also need to be aware that when we write something, we may be too close to our own writing, so that's we may not be able to find our own mistakes. Okay, so that's basically a bit of the assessment, guys. And now the other thing that I'd like to highlight to you is this one here before I move further. And any questions about the assessment? All good? All right. Now, this is the Zoom meeting, and we have two types of links, the Fridays and the Saturdays. Thanks a lot for joining me, by the way, okay? And the next one is basically the, well, pretty straightforward in terms of timetable. Assessment one is due on Friday, 26th of October. And this is your individual assessment. And the second assessment is due on the 7th of December, Friday. All timetable is in Sydney time. Okay, that's my welcome video. Just in case, I believe I've introduced myself as well for you to you. Okay, so pretty straightforward. And if you need to communicate with me, my preference is email. I think I have received an email already from one of the students, and I respond pretty quickly. I strive to reply to your emails within 24 hours, unless the email requires me to investigate something else. And that something else requires me to talk to someone else, you know, either you know, the program director or whoever they are. I may need a bit more time for that. Okay, right. Any questions, guys?
Not from me, thank you.
Right. Okay, if you don't have any questions, I think it is a pretty good chance for me to, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop recording. Okay, it is because it is pretty good chance for me to understand each of you. So for your privacy reason, I'm going to stop the recording. Okay.